Tonight, political shocker. Andrew Scheer is out as Conservative leader.
This was not a decision I came to lightly.
Why he's leaving, why now, and who might be next. At Issue breaks it down.
Here in the UK, Britain's political drama heads to a historic result. With their very future in the balance, voters take a decisive step.
Also tonight, parliamentary office politics puts Jody Wilson-Raybould back in the spotlight. And a grim recovery effort is partly completed.
People are putting themselves on the front line to do the right thing.
Officials collect the bodies of 6 people killed by a New Zealand volcano. This is The National. Tonight, we're in the middle of 2 major stories on either side of the Atlantic. One could shift the state of politics in Canada, and the other alter the future of the United Kingdom and of Europe itself.
Indeed, here in London tonight, more than 3 years into the Brexit nightmare, voters get another chance to say what they want. We'll see how clearly they spoke up.
But let's begin here in Ottawa on Parliament Hill and a big shakeup in Canadian politics. In the end, it was Andrew Scheer's call, but make no mistake, today he paid the price for losing an election his party believed it should have won. This is the West Block, the foyer on Parliament Hill, the House of Commons just behind me, where today Andrew Scheer stood up and announced his resignation as leader of the Conservative Party.
Leader of the opposition wants to rise on a point of personal privilege.
Standing up in the House of Commons, Scheer said he needed to put his family first. But as Hannah Thibodeau explains, there was a whole lot of pressure coming from inside his own party.
I will be resigning as the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada.
It seemed inevitable, but still came as a shock. Andrew Scheer says the job was taking too high a toll on him and his family.
This was a decision I came to after many long, hard conversations with friends and family over the past 2 months since the election campaign.
Many Conservatives blame Scheer for losing the election, in part because of his beliefs on abortion and same-sex marriage. But he stood firm as calls for his resignation grew louder.
I am staying on as leader. I am fighting the fight that we need to fight on behalf of Canadians.
In fact, just last week, Scheer and the party hired a new pollster to figure out what it would take for him to keep his job at the April leadership review. But today, word spread that the party was paying for his children's private school tuition, and some viewed that as indefensible.
People felt that this was unacceptable and inappropriate. These were not moving expenses. This was a lifestyle subsidization.
When you make the accumulation of bad decisions, at the end of the day, we lost confidence in Andrew Scheer.
With opposition like that, it was poised to be a brutal few months. And so today, this announcement was framed as party unity.
And as our party begins to embark on this exciting opportunity, electing a new leader, my only ask to my fellow Conservatives is this: let's stay united. Hear, hear. Hear, hear.
Tonight, Conservative caucus voted unanimously to allow Scheer to stay on as leader until a new one is chosen. Preparations for that race will start right away.
And Hannah joins me now in the foyer. So Hannah, obviously, whatever changed, it changed sort of within the last week or so.
Right. So what Conservative sources are telling me, Rosie, is just recently what drove Scheer to this decision was a conversation that he had with his teenage son, and that he realized he didn't know him well enough. So that's one of the reasons, but there could be other reasons as well. I was talking about that pollster they hired just last Thursday. I think Scheer was hoping to get some good news from that pollster, but by the decision he made today, it looks like he didn't get it.
Okay, Hannah Thibodeau in Ottawa tonight. Thanks, Hannah.
Great, welcome.
After Andrew Scheer stood up and spoke in the House today, his political opponents did too, praising him for his dedication to Canada and to his family.
He sees very much the way I and so many others see our responsibilities as parents, being good parents to our kids in a similar way, that we are politicians, we are in this House, not in spite of having kids, but because we have kids and are dedicated to building a better world for them.
I want to thank the leader of Her Majesty's official opposition for taking up that mantle, for being in public service, for not only being the leader of the official opposition, but also a speaker and also representing the riding of Regina Capel. It's a big sacrifice.
So the big question now, of course, who will be the next leader of the Conservative Party of Canada? Catherine Cullen lays out some of the possibilities and the real challenges.
Electing a new Conservative leader and Canada's next Prime Minister.
That might sound like a pretty good gig to a few of the Conservatives listening, but it can hurt your cause to seem too eager too soon. Just ask Peter MacKay. Days after Andrew Scheer's election loss, he said this.
It's like having a breakaway on an open net.
Then backtracked at risk of seeming too self-serving. He told CBC News today he still needs to discuss a leadership run with his family.
Andrew Scheer.
The stakes may be even higher than the last Conservative leadership race because Justin Trudeau seems more vulnerable now than he did then. There's no one heir apparent, but there are a lot of names being discussed in Conservative circles. Someone like an Erin O'Toole or Pierre Poilievre, experienced members of the Conservative bench. Perhaps a Quebec MP like Gérard Deltel. Many Conservatives love the idea of former interim leader Rona Ambrose running. Just today, Alberta Premier Jason Kenney told the Calgary Herald she'd make a brilliant leader, though it's widely thought she's not interested in the job. What about a Mulrooney to go up against a Trudeau? Ontario Cabinet Minister Caroline Mulrooney said today she won't run, but there's still speculation about her brother, Mark.
A leader who's going to take some risks and embrace reality.
This Conservative strategist wants to see the new leader bring some big ideas to the table.
I think you can be bold and courageous and take positions that allow people to support you as opposed to having people fear you.
But you know who might be most excited about a Conservative leadership race? Justin Trudeau, at least for now. That's because another leadership race will eat up Conservative Party donations and pretty much guarantee there won't be an election anytime soon. Catherine Cullen, CBC News, Ottawa.
We'll, of course, have a lot more on Scheer's resignation a bit later in the program with At Issue. Andrew, Chantal, and Jason Markusoff will join me to look at why now and what's next for the Conservative Party. You'll find them in about 20 minutes' time. Just across the street from where I am, there's a more low-key drama playing out. It's a fight over office space. As David Cochrane explains, the Liberals have asked Jody Wilson-Raybould, once a Liberal, now an independent MP, to leave her former ministerial cabinet office, but she won't.
The Liberals couldn't get her to budge when she held the office of minister. Now she won't budge from her old minister's office. At issue, a cluster of 6 offices on the 4th floor of this building. Twice the space a normal MP gets. In parliamentary terms, it's a ministerial suite.
So I'm not trying to prevent somebody from having or being out in the cold without an office. I'm just trying to find a reasonable solution.
Wilson-Raybould calls the move request petty, but she's a non-minister occupying a ministerial suite which the government needs.
Minister of Northern Affairs.
For this minister, Dan Vandel, a Métis from Manitoba and the new Minister of Northern Affairs. She kept the offices after quitting cabinet over the SNC-Lavalin controversy, but with a new parliament and a new cabinet, the Liberals want them back. Her supporters made this dispute public at a recent Assembly of First Nations meeting.
I heard that they were going to try to boot you out of your office. I dare them to even consider even doing that. That's your space. You've created that space. You've earned that space. And so I'm glad to hear that it was blessed today.
Blessed by an Algonquin elder just last week, invited by Wilson-Raybould to pray for the protection of the space.
I just want to stay in my office, which I had blessed by an elder and felt comfortable there.
She's offered to give up half of the offices as long as she can stay in the other half. The Liberals want it all for a full minister. All of this is now in the hands of the Speaker to resolve, but when it comes to picking offices, the rules are pretty clear. The government gets to go first, the official opposition second, the third party third, and so on. Independents like Wilson-Raybould, they have to choose from the leftovers. David Cochran, CBC News, Ottawa.
Okay, now to an update of a story that we brought you last night. It took Transport Canada a decade to investigate allegations of a racist email. But after our exclusive report, it took the Transport Minister less than a whole day to respond. Ashley Burke has the latest.
Well, I was horrified when I saw
Canada's Transport Minister couldn't believe what he saw after CBC News alerted him to the email.
There is absolutely no room in Transport Canada for racism or discrimination. There's no room in the public service. There's no room in Canada for this.
The issue was a link in the email to this spoof of a Frank Sinatra song.
Strangers on my flight, turbans they're packing, wondering if they might plan a hijacking.
The audio and lyrics allegedly shared with colleagues by Transport Canada superintendent in 2008. Their department makes sure airlines comply with Canada's no-fly list.
I'm absolutely disgusted.
Renee Suterick said she complained about receiving the email and claims the backlash for doing so led her to leave Transport Canada.
It's demoralizing, it's depressing, and in the end, I couldn't stay.
Transport Canada investigated 10 years after the email was allegedly sent. Amnesty International had raised concerns it would compromise the integrity of the no-fly list. The department won't release the findings of the investigation, citing privacy. Now the minister in charge says they will reopen the investigation.
So that we understand the full story that's here, because we think, based on your reporting, that there is some more information out there that we need to gather.
What I hope as a result of this is that the truth wants out. On this issue and on related issues, it's taken 10 years, but it's never too late, and it's never the wrong time to say the right thing.
Today, Transport Canada's Deputy Minister emailed all 5,800 of its employees about the CBC News story, reminding them that discrimination will never be tolerated and encouraging them to watch another video about integrity in the workplace. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
Great reporting by Ashley there, and we'll continue to stay on this story to see what that new Transport Canada investigation uncovers and what results from it, of course. And now let's go to Adrian in the UK, where Prime Minister Boris Johnson has apparently and convincingly saved his job. Adrian.
Yeah, Rosie, it's definitely his night, though the results are still really coming in from this election. There aren't many people who really wanted it right now, but it has effectively become a referendum on Britain's future, its place in Europe and in the world. And that's why we're here in London, outside Westminster, the UK Parliament, because the decision taken by voters will soon have an impact on hundreds of millions of people on both sides of the English Channel. Exit polls indicate Boris Johnson's Conservatives will win a commanding majority government, possibly the largest in 3 decades. It will be a stunning and stinging defeat for Labour and its leader, Jeremy Corbyn.
Hey, how are you doing? All right. Hi, thank you very much. Nice to see you. Nice to see you all here. Thank you.
So that is Corbyn arriving at his own Islington North constituency office in London less than an hour ago on what is now Friday the 13th here in the UK, not his lucky day to be sure. He has held that seat for 26 years. We will know soon if he keeps it. He is expected to speak shortly after that. And so it's now a little after 3 a.m. here in the United Kingdom. The polls have long closed. Margaret Evans, obviously, with me now after a long, very wet voting day here. Lots to talk about in this one, but people are already discussing what they refer to as the crumbling of the red wall. What is that?
That's basically Labour heartland, mainly in the north of England. Working class constituencies that have voted Labour for decades, but where there's also a lot of unhappiness about the European Union, and those constituencies voted to leave. the EU, and they're unhappy with the Labour position on that. And the Conservative Party knew that, and they targeted them quite deliberately, and clearly it's a strategy that seems to have worked. But I think we have to remember too that, Brexit has been paralyzing this country for more than three years now, and a lot of people were voting because they just want to get on with it. In the bleak midwinter, a voting day, and for some, a wedding day. Not ideal weather for either. But many British voters who made it to the polls believe this election will be a defining one for generations.
This is the second important election that I voted in. I voted in 1945, and I'm pleased I was able to vote today.
George Martindale was 22 in 1945. That's how old Anna Fernandez is today. A conflicted voter, she's supporting the Conservatives.
I voted Remain in the referendum, so yeah, I would be a Remain. So that's where I'm torn.
Brightening moods, though, the great British tradition of hashtag dogs at polling stations. This is Watson.
I think there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of discomfort around Brexit, having been delayed, 3 times now. Everyone's getting a bit sick of it.
It's also a fairly bleak vote this time around. I think just some happy dogs make it a bit brighter.
Not one to miss out on a social media opportunity, the Conservatives' Boris Johnson turned up to vote this morning with his recently acquired rescue dog.
You all got your pictures?
The opposition Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn, less at ease with the cameras,
Great victory.
stuck around for a longer than normal photo op. By day's end, battling an even harder rain, the media was congregating outside Parliament for the long night of counting ahead, in a vote that has placed great strain on this country.
So, Margaret, if the Conservative majority holds through the night and into the morning, what's your sense this will mean for Brexit?
It seems to be coming. I mean, Boris Johnson has said all along he's got a ready-made deal. He's going to put that deal before Parliament at the end of next week, preparing the legislation. He says by the end of January, Britain will leave the European Union, and then he's going to negotiate a trade agreement with the EU in 11 months. So he
Very
says.
ambitious.
Yeah.
So what about the United Kingdom? How united is it likely to be after this?
Well, that's the other big story of the night here is big gains for the Scottish National Party, about 20 seats at least, we're hearing. And obviously, Scotland voted to remain, and Nicola Sturgeon, the leader of the SNP, is promising a referendum on independence if she can get Boris Johnson to agree to one, and that's another question.
All right, more turbulence ahead. We'll see you all night long. Okay, thanks, Margaret. We will be tracking the results here literally all night long on the National, and then we'll be back tomorrow night. Once the dust settles a little bit, this result resonates far beyond this country. So we will look at the future of Brexit, what it means for the British economy and trade with Canada. And now, back to Rosie with the rest of today's news. A military team has managed to land on New Zealand's White Island on the still steaming volcano that erupted Monday. The team recovered the bodies of 6 of the 8 missing. Another 8 people were previously confirmed dead. Kim Brunheimer has more on the bleak and dangerous mission.
The day started with a traditional Maori prayer for the dead and for those desperate for their return.
It's making a rose out of harakeke flax, and it's going to make a bouquet to put on the fence down there with the rest of the flowers.
Frustration was mounting.
We are now living with a growing sense of desperation to bring home those that we know are there and those we love.
But experts insist inside the volcano, pressure is building, the danger increasing.
Our experts estimate the likelihood of an eruption has moved to 50 to 60% in the next 24 hours, up from 40 to 60% yesterday.
To speed up the recovery efforts, the Army worked with the pilots who flew into the ash Monday to help evacuate people. They knew the island, they knew where the victims lay.
There's a lot of ash on the ground and a bit falling from the sky still. Certainly was still very, very active.
A small crew worked for hours in heavy protective gear, knowing that at any moment the volcano could erupt again.
Let there be no mistake. It is not a zero-risk game, and people are putting themselves on the front line to do the right thing.
In the end, grim success. 6 bodies recovered, the other 2 still to be brought back.
I think people got a great sense of fulfilment, able to grieve close to their whānau, and I think for those that don't come from this place, they saw something of the New Zealand culture and understand the way that we are.
A tragic return for those lured by the promise of adventure, a measure of relief for the victims' families who will never truly recover what was lost. Kim Brunhuber, CBC News, Los Angeles.
There's more news still ahead on The National, including new details about that fiery train derailment in Saskatchewan. Years after that deadly derailment in Lac-Mégantic, how did this happen? And ever had a package nabbed right off your front door? Yes, I have. So you're not alone. How some groups in Manitoba are fighting back. We are back in 2 minutes.
Right at the end of the driveway, it's 2 o'clock in the morning.
Monday's fiery train derailment in rural Saskatchewan has left a huge mess. Investigators say more than 1 million liters of crude oil leaked from the cars. Cleanup is underway, and so too is an investigation into how this happened. As Bonnie Allen explains, the rail tank cars were supposed to be crash resistant.
Cleanup crews pick over the carcasses of gutted tanker cars as Transportation Safety Board investigators figure out how this happened. A CP rail freight train traveling the speed limit, about 72 kilometers per hour, initiated its emergency brakes. We don't know why yet. 34 cars derailed and 19 were punctured, dumping 1.5 million liters of crude oil in the ground and atmosphere.
It's kind of hard to describe because it was nighttime when we got there, and it was just a large ball of orange fire.
The fire burned for 24 hours.
We're not used to rail disasters of that size.
Trains carrying oil are already back on track, but CP Rail is on the hook to clean up the surrounding mess and answer some questions. It doesn't own the rail cars, but says they've been modified to protect against punctures and damage in the case of a crash or fire. New regulations came into effect after the Lac-Mégantic rail disaster that killed 47 people. Railways must use stronger, more crash-resistant rail cars. These are not the best on the market. They're retrofitted, not the newly built and thicker rail cars recommended for enhanced safety.
Generally, railways are very slow to adapt to change, and they don't like being told by regulators what to do. So I'd say that sometimes they can be a bit too tardy because it costs money, I guess.
This expert says there's no fail-safe way to transport oil.
No matter, the strength of the rail cars, whether they're supposedly puncture-proof or not, we're talking about a volatile substance going at relatively fast speeds and a lot of product.
She says only the luck of this rural location prevented fatalities or environmental disaster. There were no injuries, and officials say no waterways were affected. Bonnie Allen, CBC News, Regina.
Here are some of the other stories we are following tonight on The National. Quebec's Court of Appeal has rejected a request to suspend the province's controversial secularism law. Bill 21 prohibits public sector workers, including teachers and police officers, from wearing religious symbols on the job. Opponents wanted parts of it suspended pending a constitutional challenge. In a 2-to-1 ruling, though, the court acknowledged the harm to those affected by the law, but also said that suspending it would harm the Attorney General of Quebec and as a result of the public interest. Dramatic changes are coming to the way cannabis is sold in Ontario as the province opens up the weed market to private retailers here. The provincial government announced today that it will lift the cap on the number of private retail outlets and remove some qualification requirements for those who want to open a pot shop. This comes amid growing criticism over the lottery system previously used to award cannabis retail licenses. The province will begin accepting new applications next month. Much more ahead on The National, including breaking down sort of busy day here in Ottawa. Andrew Scheer is out. Who will replace him? Perfect timing for an at-issue night. Plus, doing some Christmas shopping online. You'll want to see our next story, how some Canadians are fighting back against Porch Pirates. We'll be right back. This holiday season, Canada Post expects to deliver 1 million packages a day. But once those packages are dropped off on doorsteps and porches, they can become pretty easy targets for thieves. So, as Cameron McIntosh explains, some community groups and small businesses are offering to help.
Watch this, completely out in the open in the middle of the day.
He has a duffel bag, and he picks up the package, and it's
pretty nonchalant.
Yeah, and it's not even that quick, and it's quite a big box.
Darren caught it all on his doorbell camera. We're not using his last name for fear of other thefts.
I was home, I didn't hear anything or notice anything, checks his bag if it's going to fit, and then he rides off.
So there you are, you're watching a video of a theft at your house.
Yes, it's scary and sad.
Making it worse, 36 hours later, it happens again. Even with a camera, it's hard to keep an eye on your front step at all times, so that has some small businesses and community groups looking to offer something a little more secure. It's not just the so-called Porch Pirates. Even Canada Post's community mailboxes have been targeted. A study conducted for FedEx found 29% of Canadian online shoppers have had something stolen. In Winnipeg, this community center has set itself up as a safe drop. For a small donation, they'll accept and secure your parcel.
We just think it will make our community feel safer, and that's what the community center is about.
Similar idea at this North Winnipeg supplement store.
Hey, Barry.
Victor Janis is all for it.
We had a neighbor that their house did have something stolen, and they said it was within about 15 minutes.
We don't want anybody's Christmas present stolen or a holiday present stolen, so it's a great way, like my dad always says, if you can do a little to help a lot, why not?
Darren, who managed to get his stolen goods replaced, isn't giving up on online shopping, but now will probably get it delivered to a local safe drop.
It's good for me because I know my package will be safe, but it's good maybe to meet small businesses.
It's certainly better than watching someone just walk off with it. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
That's happened to just about everyone. Next on The National, the second federal party leader is out in the 7 weeks since the election. Why now? And just who's waiting in the wings to take Andrew Scheer's job? At Issue is here right after this. Welcome back. The U.S. House Judiciary Committee has been debating for hours and is expected to vote on 2 articles of impeachment tonight against Donald Trump.
The president should be held accountable. Abuse of power, obstruction of Congress, that is the form it will take.
The articles are likely to be sent to the Democratic-controlled House for a final vote next week. That is expected to make Trump the 3rd president in U.S. history to be formally impeached. He would then go on trial in the Republican-controlled Senate, which is unlikely to find him guilty. And in New Jersey today, officials said they are now investigating Tuesday's shooting at a Jewish grocery store as a hate crime.
I can confirm that we're investigating this matter as potential acts of domestic terrorism, fueled both by anti-Semitism and anti-law enforcement beliefs.
New video shows the moments before the attack. 2 armed suspects get out of a rented U-Haul and make their way into the store. That's when the pair holed up and began an hours-long standoff with police. In the end, 6 people, including the suspects and a police officer, were killed. It's been 52 days since the federal election, and Andrew Scheer has gone from this...
I am staying on to fight the fight that Canadians elected us to do.
...to this.
I will be resigning as the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada.
Giving in to the pressure and criticism that wasn't going away.
At the end of the day, we lost confidence in Andrew Scheer.
We're all grateful for what Andrew's done and the leader that he's been, so it was a surprise.
Still, not everyone within the party is satisfied.
Caucus should elect from amongst themselves an interim leader, and that person, as is a tradition, should commit to not running in the leadership.
So why resign now, and what kind of conversations does the Conservative Party need to have moving forward? It's Thursday, unfortunately, at issue day, on a day when there's a lot of news. Chantal Hébert is in Montreal, Andrew Coyne is in Toronto, and Jason Markusoff joins us from Calgary tonight. Good to see you all. Of course, we're going to talk about a ton of other things, and now we're only going to talk about one thing. I mean, I think the concerns around Andrew Scheer's leadership started, we started talking about it on election night, on our panel on election night. What do you think, Chantal, made the difference now, some 50 days later, that he finally realized that he had to go?
He would have been blind if he had not realized that he had to go. I don't think that by this week there were very many Conservatives who either wanted to or expected to have Andrew Scheer as leader in the next election. The movement to send him to the exit was very public, and the reason for that was that the people who wanted him gone made it clear that they believed in the tight calendar of a minority parliament. They couldn't afford to fight it out until April because time might be of the essence. Yep. They don't have 4 years. And I think at some point it must have dawned on Mr. Scheer that he was increasingly isolated. Instead of his defenses being shored up by people warmly coming to have his back, the opposite was happening. Yeah. People were looking the other way if they were not stabbing him in the front or the back.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew, it became difficult to, I mean, no one was in caucus was overtly saying you got to go, but there was no one saying please stay either. And I don't know how, I don't know how tenable that is for how long.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, this is a blessing in disguise for him as much as for the party.
Right.
What they were looking at otherwise was 6 months of the nastiest possible political warfare. Today's broadside about his, use of party funds for his children's education, I think, was, suspiciously timed, shall we say. But again, probably better to go out that way than having been essentially shown the door by much of the party. As Chantal said, he didn't really have a constituency that would stand by him through thick and thin in the party. The social conservatives were no more willing to stand up for him than the anti-social conservatives. And when you're in that situation and nobody is really coming out saying you got to stay, then it's over.
Jason?
And where are the voices saying, oh, please don't go, Andrew Scheer, you're our savior, you're going to bring us to the promised land? MPs were, the strongest defenses of him were sort of size, let's not make a mess, let's not take the risk. People were not going to the wall for him. It was interesting, even in Alberta, where he had 69% of support from voters. I spent a weekend at a Tory convention, a provincial Tory convention, and people were not charitable to him, except for a few generous souls. This gives everybody in the Conservative Party and people watching it Christmas break, not have to worry about won't he walk in the snow, or it also prevents a potentially very brutal vote in April. I was at in Edmonton a few years ago when Paul Mulcair got below 50%, and I have a feeling that this was a slow march to some embarrassment like that. So as Andrew says, this saves them a lot of embarrassment and rips the Band-Aid off.
I should say at the end of that clip pack there, you saw Corey Chenaik, Stephen Harper's former director of communications, say he wanted him gone altogether. Caucus has decided to keep him as interim leader. So he is there until there's another leader picked or unless things change. Chantal, what does this do? Because it seems to me there's an opportunity now for the party that maybe there wasn't going to be if they had to worry about review in April. What opportunity is there now for them?
And that is why the people who wanted to push him out wanted him gone before the end of the year, so that the time is used to get on with the harder part of the job. I would argue that this was the easy part. This is a leader that is not completely the problem, but that people have come to believe will not be part of the solution. But the problem is still there. This is a party that needs to unite behind someone who actually forces some fairly serious constituencies within the Conservative movement to come around to different positions than the ones that Andrew Scheer fought on. So if the notion in Conservative circle is that they just need a better salesperson, I suspect this will be all for nothing, but I think elders in the party understand that, and that they want the next leadership campaign to be different from the 13 ballot happy dozen running for the leadership. We'll see how that pans out.
Yeah, do you agree with that, Andrew? Do you think the party is ready to have that conversation that Chantal's talking about?
I don't know. I mean, the Liberals supposedly were ready after the worst defeat they'd had in their electoral history, and instead what they did was they elected Justin Trudeau so they wouldn't have to go through some of that really searching, rethinking.
It worked out for them, though.
Well, in a sense, we'll see what happens after Trudeau.
Yeah. True.
You know, they were reduced to 33%. You know,
Yeah.
I think that's the concern. It has to be for a lot of Conservatives is: do they take the opportunity here, or did they just try and grab an acceptable face and redo the same thing over? And I can't guarantee they will. They've got an opportunity here. The temptation will be either to do that and just put a new, fresh coat of paint, or people will be urging them, what you got to do is move over to the left, move to the middle, and redo yourselves as essentially the Liberal Party light. I think if you're going to be in the Conservative Party, it's because you'd like to do things differently than the Liberals. But you've got to make yourself relevant. You've got to be addressing yourself to the issues and concerns that are on the minds of today's voters. And not just simply rehashing old formulas from 20, 30, or 40 years ago. And that they have not done. The signal failing, of course, on climate change, where there was a distinctly conservative option available to them, which they simply punted on. And these and other issues, they've got to start updating conservatism, not jettisoning it, not watering it down, but updating it and applying it and speaking in a new language that can make it fresh for a new generation of voters.
And Jason, I mean, that is possible. Like, surely there is a way to come up with a conservative climate plan that is appealing to Canadians.
It's going to be a first in Conservative history. This is going to be a Conservative leadership race where climate change and LGBTQ rights are major issues. If not being espoused by all the party leaders having a plan on those, certainly that'll be the questions from media, and certainly it'll be high demand in certain pockets of the country: urban Canada, Ontario, Quebec. The challenge for the Conservatives, I mean, the stakes are incredibly high this time. In 2017, it was the post-Harper leadership election, and people sort of were resigned to the idea that Trudeau probably has a second term. In this case, they are going to be very confident that this next guy has a legit shot of turning the Liberal minority into a Conservative minority or majority. So it's going to be intensely fought. Just look at the apparently internal party knifing of Andrew Scheer with this whole private school thing. It seemed like certainly that was friendly fire from the Conservatives, and I expect that's just the start of things to come in a race.
So, and maybe you'll hate me for asking this, but what kind of leader then does the Conservative Party need if they want to do the things that you're all talking about, sort of modernize their way of thinking and beat a Justin Trudeau? What kinds of people should they be looking at, Chantal?
They need, I believe, that the only kind of person that can bring the party around, for instance, towards the mainstream on climate change rather than the perception that they're against climate change, has to be someone who has trust and has a constituency in Western Canada. That it cannot be someone who comes from Quebec or a Peter MacKay that says, well, here we are and the Red Tories are back in charge. I don't believe that's going to work.
I entirely agree with that. It also has to be somebody, however, who can reach out to Ontario voters in particular.
Yes.
It's got to be somebody who understands the roots and nature of conservatism, who has ideas and policies and substance to them, but can present it in a way that is appealing and non-threatening, that has a moderate demeanor. People aren't looking, I think most voters, they're not looking for mushy moderatism in policy. What they want is a moderate temperament. They want somebody who's thoughtful and reflective and looks like they've been persuaded by facts and reason and can persuade others in the same way. And that's that tone and temperament that they really need. I hope it will come with the policy substance. Unfortunately, you seem to get a choice of one or the other in politics. You either get people who have the moderate temperament, or they have the policy substance, but they're pretty off-putting. The goal is to put the two together.
Okay, Jason, so it doesn't sound like it's Peter MacKay who the Conservative Party should be going after. Sorry, Peter MacKay. Go ahead.
I'm not so confident that he's dead on arrival in this in a race, or somebody like an Aaron O'Toole or somebody from Quebec is, because there's going to be a big camp, including in Alberta and Saskatchewan, where people want somebody who can win. They had somebody who represented, who encouraged, was rib-rocked in support of the oil sands and the Alberta energy industry, and that person lost. There are going to be people who are just like anybody but Trudeau, and let's elect those people. I mean, it's a natural a civil war in the party or dilemma in the party. Do we want somebody who is principled, who's going to stay true to our conservative values, or is there going to be, are they going to be pushing somebody who will win? I'm sure there will be one or two Alberta First or Prairie First candidates, but even in these parts, they won't have much purchase necessarily.
I would not have described Stephen Harper as an Alberta First leader, and he did win seats in Quebec and Ontario and a majority government, so coming from the Western Canada is not an impediment. I also don't believe that climate change is a Liberal or an NDP issue.
Okay, I have 16 more questions, but I gotta go. I think we'll talk about it again. Thank you all very much. Before we go, though, be sure to subscribe to At Issue, the podcast, for extra content. I'll keep talking to them there. This week, we will look ahead to some of the candidates already mulling over a run at the leadership race. Look for it on iTunes, any major podcast app, our website, cbcnews.ca/thenational. And with 2019 quickly coming to an end, we also want to hear from you. Send us your questions about the political year that was, what's next, and we'll put them to At Issue in the weeks to come. But next on The National, real estate and reconciliation. Why the next big power players in Vancouver development come from a local First Nation.
I'm Jamie Poisson, and tomorrow on CBC's daily news podcast Front Burner, the resignation of Andrew Scheer. CBC's Vashi Capellos reports on the politics around the Conservative leader's departure and explains where this leaves the party. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
A prime slice of Vancouver is about to be transformed into a sweep of modern high-rises. A local First Nation has voted to develop part of its land in a major real estate project. As Tanya Fletcher explains, others have similar ambitions.
This is monumental, it's massive, it's unprecedented.
It's called Sanok, a $3 billion housing development now approved by the Squamish Nation in the heart of Vancouver. 11 towers will be home to 6,000 units, most of them rentals designed to put profits back into the community.
When the money starts coming in, the nation will be able to make major investments into community amenities like daycares and schools and housing.
The mega project is on 12 acres of prime waterfront real estate. Because this is reserve land, it doesn't need to go through the often lengthy zoning and consultation steps, and that could mean fast-tracking some much-needed rental stock in a city still struggling with an affordability crisis.
So this is now getting into serious value, serious city building.
This urban development expert calls it a new era of cooperation, one that's reflected in the city skyline.
First Nations have an opportunity to shape one of the most dynamic cities in the world and bring to it those things that not only preserve their culture but add to ours. So that's way beyond than just a development proposal.
The untapped potential is being recognized all around the region. MST Development Corporation is an Indigenous-led real estate company, a partnership between the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. It's widely viewed as the next big power player in the industry.
It's a new world for the nations all throughout Canada.
Top real estate executive David Negrin was brought on to be the company's CEO. He says the First Nations are currently unlocking a combined 160 acres of prime property on 4 sites slated for major development across the Lower Mainland.
I said this 3 years ago, make no mistake that the First Nations will be major developers within Canada, and that has happened now. And the opportunities for them are vast. And you know, they've waited a long time.
A long time coming for communities glad to have a significant seat at the table. Tanya Fletcher, CBC News, Vancouver.
And next on The National, our moment. A Christmas surprise for a young hockey player whose health has kept him off the ice. Get ready to shed a little tear right after this. A young hockey player in PEI has been off the ice for the past couple of weeks. He's healing from a biopsy that's part of his ongoing treatment for kidney disease. His teammates wanted to cheer him up while he recovers, and what they did is our moment.
I could kind of hear a commotion, and his team started pouring in all with their jerseys on. Jingle bell, jingle bell. We were all very surprised, I guess you could say, yeah. We visited our doctor right after New Year's, and after some blood work and things, we found out he had nephrotic syndrome, which affects his kidneys. He's a trooper. He's still kind of, he's your typical little boy. Can't wait to get back to playing hockey, right, Blake? They contacted me a few days before, the manager of the team, and said that a couple of his classmates teammates wanted to come by and give him a little gift. What song? Jingle Bells, yeah. Frosty the Snowman. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? Yeah, I couldn't remember the third one. You remembered. Good.
So Blake was pretty overwhelmed when all of his teammates showed up on his porch and got very shy, as he was in that video there with his mom, but he hasn't stopped talking about it since it happened, and that goes to show you that kids have some of the best ideas around. And that is The National for this very busy Thursday, December 12th. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.